Hey guys, what's going on? Honest Abe coming back at you with another video here on Sunday. Cold, chilly, rainy, sleety, snowy here in East Tennessee. So hopefully you guys are safe out there on the roads. But yeah, you know what? Man, big win again for Tennessee basketball and Lady Vols. Of course, Tennessee knocks off number one Gonzaga. Lady Vols knock off number 12 Texas, and what an incredible day for basketball. But that's not the reason why we're doing this video right here. Today, in this video, we're going to talk about some college football. We're going to talk about college football playoff, and I want to give you guys some of my thoughts on that. And of course, we got our top four college football teams for the college football playoff, and it is what it is. It's obviously not going to change this year. There's always a lot of talk about them needing to change college football playoff. Make it, more teams, make it 8 teams, make it 16, 10, whatever. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you guys some of my thoughts on the college football playoff, and what I think about it, and the bowl season. And just to kind of put it out there, I definitely want to hear you guys' comments. What's your guys' thoughts on the college football playoff? And maybe what tweaks, changes could be made, make it better. Yeah, so just let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Definitely leave a comment, and I will always get back to you guys on that. So let's dive right into it. Our top four teams: Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. Those are rounding out the top four. And of course, a lot of people wanted to see Alabama, Oklahoma, and of course, Alabama is Alabama. And whether Tua is in there or not, Alabama is Alabama, and they're going to roll and they're going to win. And they're going to win the national championship this year. It doesn't matter who they play. I think their best competition was Georgia. I think their best competition in the past, basically 2 seasons, has been Georgia. And it's not that Alabama doesn't play anybody. Because I hear this a lot, the SEC teams, and SEC in general, they play a lot of nobodies. They play a lot of cupcakes, so to speak, is what I hear. A lot of people on sports radio and all across the country, especially in the Northeast, talk about. Well, let's talk about that in the SEC. I want to give you guys my thoughts. Do the SEC teams play cupcakes? Yes, they do. And my personal thought is, okay, I don't really like it. I really, really don't. But the SEC is the top, conference in the nation. Period. I don't care what anybody else says. The SEC is the top conference in the nation. When you have 3 of the SEC teams in the top 5, basically going into the final weeks of the season. Yeah, it's the best conference out there right now. It really is, and of course Alabama is always up there with LSU, Georgia, and I definitely want to see Tennessee get back into that talk. But right now, I mean, still the SEC is the top conference out there. Do we have some down and outers? Yeah, we got Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's okay. They went up and played Notre Dame this year, almost beat them, but they're always at the bottom of the conference, and so yeah, we do have a couple teams in the conference that are always on the low end, but you're always going to have that. And when you have a conference like the SEC that is so tough. I don't mind so much that we play cupcakes, like Tennessee playing like an App State or whatnot. But we also played, a West Virginia team that was very good this year. So it is what it is. I would love to see the SEC schedule better matchups on their off week, so to speak. Their out of conference games. And not you, sir. Play a cupcake for your homecoming game. Don't care about that. That's fine. Go out there, stomp them, win your homecoming game, whatever. See, the thing is about it is the SEC schedule is so tough, and these other dominant teams that are in other conferences, well, your conferences stink. I mean, they're awful. You have teams that, win one or two games, and then you have, an Ohio State team that, will, only drop two games or whatnot. Or an Oklahoma team that basically will steamroll in their conference. Their biggest matchup was Texas. And of course, the Pac-12 is the Pac-12. They're good, but the past couple seasons they've been down and out. But they're not very good. The SEC, they have top-notch teams, and they beat up on each other every single week. So when they're in the top, when you got three teams in the top five from the SEC, they're the best schools. They're the ones that are going to get in the college football playoff. We saw this last year. Auburn knocks off Alabama in the Iron Bowl, goes to the SEC championship, loses to Georgia. Auburn doesn't make the college football playoff. Georgia does as the SEC champ. Alabama still makes the college football playoff. Why? Because they're still one of the best teams in the nation. Even if it happened this year, if Georgia would have knocked off Alabama, guess what? Two teams would be in the college football playoff. Georgia would be in as the SEC champ, and Alabama would be in as a one-loss, and they would have beat out an Oklahoma team, or even had dropped Notre Dame from the contention. So, yeah, it is what it is when it comes to the SEC. It's the best out there, period. End of story. People don't have to like it. People can dog on the SEC and everything, but right now, the competition out there is the SEC. And let's talk a little bit about Central Florida. All right. Central Florida has won 25 straight games. They feel gypped. Why aren't they invited to the college football playoff? They've been undefeated for 2 seasons. Well, you haven't played anybody. And it's my thought. If you want to be the best, go play the best. And people want to talk about schedules and all this, and nobody wants to play them. Well, Florida offered them a 2-1. I can understand why, Central Florida said no to that. But, you are a team that has only been good for 2 seasons. You played nobody, really. Sure, you beat Auburn last year in a bowl game. Auburn didn't even want to play the bowl game. And they still went out and dominated the first half. And then Central Florida they came back in the second half because, Auburn just, they cashed it in. They were done. They were done playing. And bowl games, in my opinion, really are pointless. The reason that they do the bowl games is for money and for us, for fans. Why? Because we pay outrageous money to go to these bowl games. We spend a lot of money to go to these cities, and it makes these places a lot of money. So, do the bowls really matter? Not really, other than the college football playoff at this point. It really doesn't matter. And so, so Central Florida, you might be a good team, but I do think you need to, play some other people. Get a better schedule. My biggest argument would change conferences. Get into the ACC. Get into a different conference where you have a legitimate shot and in a Power 5 conference. And when you win that conference, you have legitimate reasons to be considered for. And this is why, like a Boise State, they might, or Baylor. They might be good. They're good couple seasons ago, whatnot. Have some, reasons to be in the BCS when it was the BCS, championship talk. But when it boils down to it, you're good 1-2 seasons and you drop off. Alabama has been Alabama for the past 20 years, and they have won. All right? LSU has been good. Florida has been good. And, I've heard some people talk, well, Florida they have off years, and ever since Spurrier left, Urban Meyer left, they've had some down and out seasons, but they're back, and Florida is still a championship contending team, and we saw that this season they are back. Tennessee was there; they were there in the late '90s, early 2000s. They've dropped off after coaching fiascos, so to speak, and you see that. But these teams have still proven themselves, over the years consistently and had good records. So, Central Florida, I don't mind them, saying that, they're getting gypped. That's fine. Because, they're a good team to go 25-0 in the past 2 seasons. But I do think they need to change conferences. I do think they need to schedule some better opponents. And the SEC needs to pick up one of these guys. And honestly, the SEC just needs to shut them up, is what needs to happen. They need to come in there and say, yeah, okay, well, Tennessee can drop, our cupcake App State or whatever, who are, one of these cupcake teams that we're not that we play, or like Alabama playing like App State, or with some silly matchup that these teams are scheduled 5 years in advance. Go ahead and send that cupcake school a check. Say, all right, Central Florida, come on in here and let's see what you got. And then when we kick their hind, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say a bad word, but we kick their hind end, and they go walking back to Florida with their tail hung between their legs, then that talk is over. And I really think that's what it's going to take. It's going to take one of these SEC schools to say, all right, we'll do a 1-1, whatever. You come here, we'll go there, whatever. But we're going to beat the tar out of you, and you can piss them on all you want afterwards. Well, that'll shut them up. And you won't hear that talk about Central Florida. Anyway, off of my rant, Central Florida, fine. They're a good team. Enjoy your bowl against LSU because you're going to get your butt whooped against LSU. And hopefully that happens and LSU just shuts them up and end the conversation. We're done with Central Florida being in the college football playoff. Unless the college football playoff moves to an 8-team matchup. Then we can have, maybe our top 5 or, our conferences. All right, your winners, you get in. Whoever wins the championship, you get in. You get, maybe another conference top notch. It's not a Power 5. And then you have 1 or 2 teams that are really good, like a Notre Dame or Central Florida. Okay. And then when a Central Florida ends up having to play a number 1 Alabama because they're the 8th seed and get their butt whooped, well, then they're out. And, Alabama or whoever can roll on. All right. Anyway, off of that. ACC Clemson, number 2. Clemson is going to be a good matchup for Notre Dame. I think it's going to be a close game for that. But, Notre Dame also had a tough schedule there. I think they definitely earned their way in. Clemson earned their way in. Clemson is going to give Alabama a good contention, but I do think Alabama is going to roll over them as well. In the long run, I think they're just going to roll over everybody. And Oklahoma, of course, they win, their conference by a comeback against Texas. Of course, they lost to Texas earlier in the season. And, of course, they get that redemption, make it into the college football playoff. I do think the committee on the playoff, they did get the top 4 teams right, so to speak. I think Georgia definitely had an argument in there. Of course, Ohio State and even Michigan. Definitely some good teams out there, and that's why my thoughts on it are, I would rather actually see like a 16 team, more than 8, because you get the top. Sure, your Power 5 conferences, they can all get in an 8 bracket. And then you have a couple of, but what happens when like a 1-loss Georgia or a 2-loss Georgia, who has been the only team that has given an Alabama a competition in the past 2 years? Where do they fall? No 2-loss team has ever made the college football playoff with 4 teams. Would they with 8? Possibly, I think so. But I think with like a 16 team, even maybe just a 10, you would actually get more of a diverse group of people. You get your conference champions in there, but then you can get 2-loss Georgia in there. You can get, a Michigan in there, who, a Michigan team was very good this year. And, kind of make it like a Sweet 16. And let's do away with half of these other bowl games because they're meaningless and they're pointless. And honestly, I don't think a 6-6 team, if you're 500, you don't deserve a bowl game, period. I'm sorry. Tennessee could have made a bowl this season at 5-7. We almost did. But with the way that we lost, our final games, they kind of knocked us out of it. But if we had, been contenders and made decent games out of it, I think Tennessee would have definitely got a bowl bid. But in my opinion, even if you're a 6-6 team, you should not make a bowl. But with a 16 team playoff, make it like a Sweet 16, like college basketball does, and we go from there. Those are your bowl games. You take a week off after your conference championships. You start preparing for your bowls. We go from the second week of December on into New Year's, like we do, and that would take care of your bowls. We would still have the national championship at the end of the first week of January, and that would be it. That would be the way that college football needs to handle this. You would still get your, whatever you get, 15, 16, bowl games, whatever it is, after all those matchups. And yeah, that's the way it needs to be done. I mean, we don't see any 500 teams in basketball. Basketball is a completely different beast. But I think I do like the way that college basketball does. Their brackets. I think it's very, very legitimate. And of course, in basketball, you're playing more than one game a week, and so I get it. That's why you can't do like a 64 team. I've heard people say, "Well, let's just throw 64 teams in a bracket or whatnot for college football and whittle it down to number one." Well, that would take until April to figure out, because if we're only going to play one game a week, it would take forever. But I do think if you make it like a Sweet 16, we can cover December. We're not having to wait a month. I mean, these teams get a month off. Sure, it's great. And Jeremy Pruitt said, yeah, we definitely love those extra 10, 15 practices, whatever it is, to prepare for a bowl game, give our guys extra reps. And, I get that, but I don't think it really helps you in the long run. I mean, yeah, sure, these guys can get better acquainted, but you know what? That's what the offseason's for. That's why they study film and, read their playbooks and all that kind of stuff in the offseason or whatnot. They're in the weight room, they're in meetings and all this kind of stuff. That's what the offseason's for. So, a 16-team playoff, I think is a good compromise. Do I think we'll ever see it? Probably not. I don't think so. I think that the most that they'll end up going is maybe 8 eventually, when there's enough ruckus from people. And I mean, really, the only way that they're going to change it is if people just say, all right, well, we're not going to games anymore, and people are not going to not go to games anymore. So unless the NCAA actually starts losing money on these bowl games, they're never going to really change it. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I think Alabama's going to roll. I think we're going to see Alabama, Clemson in the national championship. If Georgia had gotten in, they might have been able to actually meet up again with Alabama and beat them. Who knows? But Alabama is so good, and I think Tua's going to be all right. He went out in the SEC championship. Hurts came in and ended up making those final drives, winning the game for Alabama. But I think Alabama's going to be fine. They're going to roll. They're going to roll through Oklahoma. They're going to roll through. They're going to roll through Clemson and come out on top, undefeated this season. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the college football playoff. Let me know what you guys think on it. Definitely, I am looking forward to watching some college football during the holiday season here. Christmas and New Year's. I definitely enjoy watching the games. All fans do. Are they pointless, really? Yeah, they are. They don't really mean anything. But it is what it is, and we get to watch more football. So I'm not going to argue with that. And Murray actually ended up winning the Heisman. Tua didn't. Arguments there, whatever. I think Tua probably should have won, but Tua played like almost half the snaps as the other guys, because during the whole season he didn't play like in the third and fourth quarter for most of the games. So what do you expect? It is what it is. If he had played all those games, he would have been number one regardless. But I think the Heisman Trophy is kind of silly. Anyway, in the first place, we already have all these other awards that go out to people, so whatever. Anyway, and yeah. that's another story, another topic, another discussion for another time. Anyway, guys, I've kind of went long, but this is Honest Abe signing off. We'll see you guys.